Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. As we get closer and closer to the $1.9 trillion stimulus package passing the House and then getting signed into law by the president, I have some important behind the scenes information for you about this $1.9 trillion stimulus package, the political ramifications, because I believe that even though the Democrats have done this successfully, the fact that not a single Republican senator voted for it, that this could signal the end of bipartisanship, at least in the near term. And this unlocks new opportunities which have political risks, which have economic risks as far as President Biden is concerned. Let's just jump right in. My name is Dr. Chhoda with Ignition Time. Welcome to my channel. Check this out. I have a crystal ball. I can predict the future. I can also make it rain money. I can also change the weather, and it can be snowing. It's kind of snowing. It's suddenly cold. Nah, I actually can't do any of those things. But what I can do is give you the honest news, give you the truth, and help you understand what's going on in the country, in the economy, as well as our money. Here's a new headline published by Bloomberg. Biden nears big win as the $1.9 trillion stimulus package goes to a final vote. Now, in case you're wondering why it's taking so long, remember that a package has to become a bill which passes both the House and the Senate. And then once that goes to the president's desk for signature, that is when it becomes law. Now, in this situation, the Senate made revisions to the House bill. Therefore, the House has to pass the same version of the bill, and they're not going to make any more revisions, I assure you, because we're down to the wire with the March 14 deadline fast approaching. So the House has to pass the same version of the bill, which is expected on Tuesday. And once that happens, that'll go to the president's desk for signature, and then the president will sign it, and that'll be the first major victory as far as the Biden administration is concerned. Here's a comment from one of the progressives within the Democratic Party. This is the Congressional Progressive Caucus Chairwoman, Pramila Jayapal. Despite the fact that we believe any weakening of the House provisions were bad policy and bad politics, the reality is that the final amendments were relatively minor concessions. Now, what are these final amendments? The $15 an hour minimum wage didn't make it. The $400 a week, which was originally supposed to be till August 29th, is now $300 a week through September. And the first $10,200 in unemployment benefits is not going to be taxed for households making up to $150,000 a year. So in some ways, this is one step forward, one step backwards as far as Congresswoman Jayapal is concerned. Here's a chart on your screen that shows you the stimulus payments based on different households, based on different income levels. So you can start to see the colors here. The yellow color represents individuals who are married with 2 children. The blue color represents individuals who are married with no children. And then the black color represents single individuals. And the pink color represents head of household. So as we move from left to right, you can see that as the income increases, the thresholds, if you will, change. So a single person making more than $80,000 will get 0 stimulus checks. The head of household with 1 child making more than $120,000 is looking at 0 checks. And then once the $160,000 threshold is crossed, those individuals, specifically those who are married with 2 children and married with 1 child, get no stimulus checks. In other words, no $1,400 stimulus checks for their dependents as well. Janet Yellen, the US Treasury Secretary, also was very enthusiastic. She said, once the plan is signed into law, I am confident the Americans will be met by a strong economy where we make it to the other side of the pandemic. Words from the US Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. Now, as you can imagine, the Georgia senators were extremely happy. Senator Raphael Warnock, the newly elected senator from Georgia, said this: the people of Georgia deserve great credit for what happened here today. If they had not stood up in such a powerful way on that historic election day and sent John Ossoff and myself to the Senate, we simply would not be here. And on the other hand, you have Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who's very unhappy with this entire situation. He said the Senate has never spent $2 trillion in a more haphazard way. We passed 5 bipartisan COVID relief bills, and there is no reason we could not do a 6th. And the Republican Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana said, I want to support a bill that targeted aid to those impacted by the pandemic. Instead, Democrats rammed through a bill that wasted hundreds of billions of dollars on pet projects that have nothing to do with the pandemic and puts our economy at risk for inflation. The Washington Post is also reporting, and you'll see this headline on your screen, we need the government. The $1.9 trillion stimulus plan represents a major shift in US politics. The pandemic has deflated the deficit politics that dominated the Obama era. During the Obama administration, in fact, President Obama was asked to send out letters to American people saying, hey, this is the stimulus we've done. And there wasn't much stimulus at that time. But President Obama decided not to do it. Now the whole thing has become political, possibly in an effort to increase the dependency on the government, which as far as many economists are concerned, as far as many political commentators are concerned, helps the Democrats, because if people depend more on the government, that's going to help the Democrats in future elections. So this entire stimulus has political implications as well. If you've been following my channel, I've talked to you about politics being a game of timing, a game of opportunity, a game of tribalism, where it's us against them. Now we are starting to see the us against them, where it's us, meaning us, the people, and the Democrats versus the Republicans and businesses, which is now becoming a political dynamic that is emerging from this entire $1.9 trillion stimulus package. Speaking of political dynamics, we know that President Biden has issued a lot of executive orders. Here's the headline of an article from Axios. And by the way, you'll get a link to all of our articles in the description section below. This is one of the things that makes our channel very unique. Other channels just give you a bunch of information. We reference all of our resources in every single video that we do, which, by the way, is a lot of work behind the scenes. So if you want to appreciate the effort, please give me a like. Please subscribe, please enable notifications. That is your vote of confidence in all the free content that we continue to provide you on our channel. Let's get back to the Axios article. The Senate relief bill paves the way for student debt forgiveness through executive action, potentially another executive action from President Biden on student debt forgiveness. Now, this was originally reported by the Wall Street Journal. You see the headline from the Wall Street Journal on your screen. Senate bill would clear the hurdle for student loan forgiveness. A new provision in the American Rescue Plan, in the Senate version that is now going to the House and will pass the House next week, would remove any tax consequences for those whose student debt is written off. So what does this actually mean? Normally federal law essentially takes forgiven debt and treats it as taxable income. So let's say you had $10,000 of debt that was forgiven. That would actually be treated as taxable income because you just got $10,000 in forgiveness. But what President Biden has pledged to do is forgive up to $10,000 in debt. He has pledged to do it. He still hasn't done it through executive order, but he pledged to forgive up to $10,000 in individual debt. And so his pledge would have increased the tax bills of many households by a larger amount than the monthly installments that they would have to pay for the debt. So imagine having that $10,000 forgiveness, if you will, and then suddenly facing a tax bill, because federal law, again, usually treats forgiven debt as tax income. Now, here's the interesting thing. The provision in the new Senate bill, which is going to be signed into law by the president, paves the way for President Biden to issue an executive order to forgive student debt through executive action without burdening the recipients of that executive action, without burdening the recipients of the forgiveness with a new tax. So it's essentially a win-win, but at the same time, obviously, it's going to result in lost tax revenue for the American government. According to the Wall Street Journal and Axios, the government will lose approximately $44 million in revenue according to this provision, and all federal student loans are eligible, including state education loans, institutional loans, private student loans, and private parent loans. In the meantime, here's another headline of an article from Politico. Biden rides a keep it simple, stupid strategy to early success. The president's stimulus bill passed the Senate, and it was a remarkably drama-free milestone for a $1.9 trillion bill. Now, we know there was a lot of drama, but in the grand scheme of things, this has been going pretty quickly, pretty smoothly. I have seen some comments from our channel saying, oh, Biden was just elected. Why didn't he send out the money right away? Because that's not how it works. That's not how it works. The way it works is the power of the purse rests with Congress. A bill has to pass both the House and the Senate. And considering that it has been less than 2 months, I would say about 7 weeks since the inauguration of the president, to get this bill passed that quickly is indeed an impressive achievement. Look, we're in the middle of a crisis. There is an economic need for this, but whichever way you look at it, this is a political victory for President Biden. And if you're thinking to yourself,
why did this already happen by now? Why is it happening so late? Why?
It takes time. Something has to go through both the House and the Senate. And to pass a $1.9 trillion bill, again, in less than 7 weeks, is an incredible achievement. However, are we looking at long-term implications, long-term complications of this massive bill being jammed through without a single Republican vote? Here's a headline of an article on your screen from New York Times. After stimulus victory in the Senate, the reality sinks in. Bipartisanship is dead. Every single Republican voted against this stimulus package, and it was a party line vote. And this showed that the gulf between the two parties, at the moment at least, is too wide to be bridged. Here's a comment from Senator John Thune, the number 2 Republican in the Senate after the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. It is really unfortunate that at a time when a president who came into office suggesting that he wanted to work with Republicans and create solutions in a bipartisan way and try to bring the country together and unify, the first thing out of the gate is a piece of legislation that is simply done with one party rule. So as you can see, he was not very happy about that. In fact, the White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain called this stimulus package, I quote, the most progressive domestic legislation in a generation. Again, he called it the most progressive domestic legislation in a generation. And this was something that the Republicans seized on. And now they're saying, hey, look, this is what you get when you have a Democrat-led Senate and when you have a Democratic president. Here's a tweet on your screen from Senate Republicans. The American Rescue Plan, just another liberal wish list disguised as a stimulus bill. But don't take it from us. Take it from Joe Biden's Chief of Staff. Let's actually listen to what the White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain said, and let's listen to his exact words. Let's watch.
Look, we are hopefully just weeks away from final passage of the most progressive domestic legislation in a generation. The most progressive domestic legislation in a generation.
That's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you giving me your time as I give you a detailed update about the long-term ramifications of this stimulus plan and about what lies ahead. Although on the one hand, this is a political victory for President Biden, there he is, I can tell you that the Republicans, on the other hand, led by the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, are gearing up for what is likely to be a long battle over the next major stimulus plan, the infrastructure plan, while using words like democratic wish list, radical agenda, left-wing agenda, in order to be able to make their point. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Please do me a favor. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. I can promise you President Biden would appreciate that. I can promise you that the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, he just texted me a few minutes ago and he said he clicks the like button whenever he watches Ignition Time. So I encourage you to do the same. President Biden has been busy, but he does text me once in a while to let me know that he clicks the like button as well when he finds time between all of his meetings. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.